I would like to advise those present that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded, so all care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event that your voice and or image is broadcast. Manningham Council would also like to acknowledge the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. All council meetings are controlled by a meeting procedure local law. I'll introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda by calling it by number and by reading the title. I'll then call for a mover and seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I'd like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time, which provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Questions must be registered prior to the commencement of the meeting to be asked. If we do not have the information at hand to provide a meaningful response, the question may be taken on notice and a response provided in writing. I will also stress that I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any issue, on any one issue. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these questions in writing to council through the normal channel. Okay. Item 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. There are no apologies. Item 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. There has been no prior notification of any conflict of interest. Item 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Piner.
That the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 27th of March 2018 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Piner. Councillor Gallagher. I'll put that motion. Before I do, any speakers against? I'll put that motion. 4. And that's carried. Item 5.1, keys to the city. Well, I'm sure a lot of people are aware about what this is about. At our first council meeting this year, council resolved to award the key to the city to an outstanding local resident. Awarding the key to the city is an honour council does not bestow lightly. The key to the city is awarded to acknowledge the contribution of an individual, group or organisation for outstanding achievement in their field. This can be in sport, entertainment, community or humanitarian work at a state, national or international level. In 1988, the City of Doncaster and Templestowe awarded the first key to the city to Mr Irvine Green, OAM. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight it is my absolute privilege and honour to present only the second key in our city's history to none other than Dr Jim Poulter. Jim is a social advocate and a Templestowe local. He was nominated for his outstanding contribution to Reconciliation Manningham and as a member of Manningham University of the Third Age. Jim has made a significant contribution to the reconciliation movement. Over the course of many years, Jim has worked closely with the Aboriginal elders and Indigenous organisations to produce educational material on Aboriginal history and cultural practices. Jim has published 25 books and sold more than 70,000 copies in the past 30 years. This includes several acclaimed Aboriginal-themed children's books and the scripting of the documentary The Fighting Gunditjmara. Jim was also a founding board member of Domcare and the Manningham Community Health Centre. Since retirement, Jim continues to contribute to our community, giving talks on Aboriginal history and heritage, as well as conducting history walks along the Yarra River in Manningham. Please join me in presenting Dr Jim Poulter with the keys to our city.
Law.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Jim and his guests to proceed to function room 1 to start the celebrations. And when we finish our council meeting, we'll be able to join you.
I'll lead the way.
On this eve of Anzac Day, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge one of the most significant days in our national calendar. Anzac Day goes beyond the anniversary of the landing on Gallipoli in 1915. It is a day on which we remember all Australians who served and died in war and operational service, both past and present. The spirit of the Anzac, with qualities of courage, mateship and sacrifice, continues to have meaning for our national identity. Tomorrow is a day for us to collectively give thanks to all current and former members of our Defence Forces, the brave men and women who serve our country on a daily basis. We also acknowledge the losses and sacrifices of their families. There will be a number of Anzac Day services around Manningham tomorrow. These include Doncaster RSL at dawn, 5:45 start, Templestowe RSL, an Anzac Day service starting at 8:30, and Warrandyte RSL, which will start at 10:45, with a march commencing beforehand at 10:30 in Harris Street. It's a long-standing tradition that we take a moment to pause in silent reflection and remember the sacrifice of those who serve this country. Please join me as we honour the gallant men and women who serve and continue to serve with minutes of silence. Please be seated. We'll move on to 6.1, petition rate reduction for retirement village residents, Coonung Ward. Do I have a mover? Councillor Haynes.
I move that the petition with 79 signatures seeking equity in rate charges to residents of retirement villages through a differential rate reduction of 25% be received and referred through the appropriate officer for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Do I have a second? Councillor Goff. Councillor Hayes.
Nothing further to add, it's tabled.
Councillor Goff.
No, Mr Chair.
Speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 7. Public question time. We have received one question from Mr. Rizal Jamal. Mr. Jamali, sorry?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to come forward? You have 2 minutes to make a brief statement and ask your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to ask you, I am developing a site in Dunbay, and I'm waiting for stormwater design to get approved. I think I have waited too long. I've waited since 2nd of February, and every week I contact the engineers. They tell me next week. Next week I call them. They say next week. I don't know when that next week is gonna come. I just want to know when that next week is gonna be. But my actual question is that was one part of my question. But are you aware of how long it is taking for the procedure of approving stormwater design? Is different to the town, as you are aware? It is different to town planning. It's another part of one of the conditions of the town planning to do a stormwater design. That stormwater design, are you aware it is how long it is taking? Or I think it is too long. And the problem is, the main problem is sometimes we need to amend the plan. When we amend the plan, it goes right to the end of the queue. So we have to go. We have to wait again the same amount of time. If you are aware of that, have you done something about it? If you are not aware about it, are you going to do something about it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. As the question relates to council's assets, could I ask Director of Assets and Engineering to please respond?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not familiar with the phone calls and people saying we've done the week, we've done the week. That's new information I have to follow up on. But in terms of the questions themselves, we are aware of the delays, and we've more than doubled our resources in that area to try and deal with it, because of the sheer volume of what we're receiving is enormous. And coupled with the complexity of some of them, so some of them are very complicated. And the other problem we've got is that, as the gentleman alluded to, what we're getting in from consultants isn't all that great, and we have to go back with requested changes and amendments, and we have to work with them on coming up with a better system. And then, that just extends our work. Apart from extending the time that it takes to do each application, actually adds to the workload having to look at these things 2, 3, 4 times. So, look, it is a problem. We did have 2 people going back a while doing it. We now have over 4 people doing it. And the last person was put on 3 months ago, so we are incrementally trying to address it. The other thing that the planners asked me to say was that officers are aware of the importance of assessing post-planning related plans in a timely manner, and a review of council's planning approvals process has commenced. Once this process has been completed, appropriate processes and initiatives will be adopted to increase the level of service to council's customers and reducing turnover times.
Item 8, the mission of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Item 9, permit applications. 9.9, planning application PL 1602695 at 9096 Tram Road, Doncaster. The development of an 8-storey apartment building with associated basement car parking and alteration of vehicle access. Thank you, Councillor Chin.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. For a second then? Councillor Haynes. Councillor Chin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this site, 90 to 96 Trent Road, is located within the Doncaster Hill Principal Activity Centre that encourages the greatest area of high-density development to locate along the Doncaster Road ridge line. And the application includes 8-story apartment building, including 158 dwellings, 2 levels of basement car parking of 203 car spaces and 60 bicycle spaces. It appears to me that it consistent with the relevant local and state planning frameworks that encourage and emphasize the need for mixed-use development, with a focus on high-density residential development in Doncaster Hill Activity Centre. Notably, the application does not request reduction of car spaces. On the contrary, it exceeds the requirements by 8 car parking spaces and 11 bicycle spaces. Because normally I can see applications that always request reduction of car spaces for various reasons. And this is, I remember that this is probably the only one that I have received with exceeds requirements of car spaces. But I do have concern about the overshadowing. And I have to face the fact that it is inevitable that there are some degree of overshadowing from taller buildings within the activity center. But it is not considered unreasonable. So also, I have to face the fact that there are no written objections received for this application. So this is not an easy decision, and I think hard and very hard. And on balance, I have to say that I support this application, and subject to amendment by way of conditions requiring some modest design changes and submission of management plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Chin. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this building is 8-storey and a sheer face backing onto Frederick Street, but it has a 5-metre setback at most of the boundary area on those 5 properties. And so I'm grateful that the officers have been able to achieve that, and also the 30 conditions that they've put within this plan, and I ask the councillors to support that, and also to state that this is next to the Officeworks Autobarn site, and that will be developed quite intensively in the future, maybe near future, I'm not certain, but I'm glad that those houses have that setback, and I'm looking forward to doing the same further along that, and trying to have some sort of continuous boundary that will help. And the central courtyard for this building is a very, very generous courtyard with lighting, and so it is a structured building that's in a way that creates good amenity for the people that will be purchasing within that building. So I think this is a great design and a great outcome for the community, and I ask that you support this.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Item 9.2, planning application PL 17027-403 at Stockton Pines, 181 Greenwood Road, Doncaster East. The use and development of the land for a retirement village, incorporating associated communal facilities, medical centre and retail spaces, reduction in car parking requirements, and to create an alter access. Great to move that motion. Thank you, Mr. McLeish. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the recommendation be adopted.
For the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to begin by apologising to my fellow councillors, because I'm going to go on a little bit here because of the nature of this particular proposition. We have before us, councillors, a refusal. The recommendation is a refusal not to grant a permit And it's interesting to hear the juxtaposition of the previous application, because in the previous application we talked about Tram Road. Just over here, very busy road, very busy intersection, right in the heart of Doncaster Hill. Yet the development was able to achieve a 5 metre setback from the roadway. Now I know that's in accordance with the planning scheme, but they achieved the 5 metre setback. This is great. This is what we're looking for. Provides an opportunity for landscaping, allows for the boulevard treatment. But what we've got with this particular proposal, and councillors, I encourage you to open your agenda and have a look at it. It's on page 102. Here's a photo of the corner of Reynolds Road and Blackburn Road. And what you'll see is a building hard up against the footpath. If you read the report, you'll see that it says the building is set back between 0 and 5 metres. So there are sections where the building is 0 metres from the property boundary. I don't see that we've actually got a reasonable outcome here with landscaping opportunities. And this is one of the key reasons why the particular proposal has been rejected by officers, because they haven't done the work to ensure that this building, these 4 buildings are actually set back and designed in a way that minimises their impact on the local neighbourhood. We have heights between 24 and 28.8 metres, councillors. This is in an area where we have a preferred height of 14 to 16 metres across the development site. So we have a proposal that's well beyond 50% above the preferred height and heading beyond that. And what is worse, councillors, is the site isn't even excavated down to footpath level on that intersection. In fact, the building starts, according to the report, some 8 metres above footpath in that area. So what you're seeing is a very, very large proposal in this location. And I don't believe it actually is appropriate. Now, don't get me wrong, councillors, I think the proposition of having retirement living in this location is a sound and sensible one. Putting it where there's a public transport junction, putting it where there are shops and facilities is a very good thing in my personal view. I just think the execution in this particular instance is terrible. It is an overreach in terms of height, an overreach in terms of scale, and it should not be approved in its current form, and I encourage you to accept the officer recommendation. And I'll give you a little bit of a tale about why I think the internals of this particular proposal aren't very good. There's a lot of parking in this proposal. We're talking about 835 spaces, because this particular site intersects with the Pine Shopping Centre. So we're going to see 3 levels of car parking in this proposal. About half of it will be for residents and about the other half will be for the retail component. But we don't see is a sensible configuration of any of that, in my view. We've got, for example, the at-grade car parking at ground level when you walk out the south side of the shopping centre. You have to cross the road, so you're not going under the road, you're crossing the busy road as you do now. But when you go into that car park, there are 2 entrances for the entire level of car parking, which wraps around the entire site. 2 entrances. That's for shoppers to access the entire level of car parking. So you walk across that road with your trolley and your 3 kids and you get into the car park and you head down towards Reynolds Road and you get this nice 5 lanes of car parking, you cross that. But if your car is right down near the corner of Blackburn and Reynolds Road, you will then have to walk along the roadway with your trolley. You'll be doing it with your shopping, you'll be doing it with your 3 kids, you'll be walking for 90 metres along the roadway to get to your car, which is right down in that corner. Because that's the only way to do it. There are no walkways through the middle of this car park along the longitudinal length of the car park. And if you come up Blackburn Road, the same thing. You won't have to walk 90, you'll have to walk about 60, but you'll have exactly the same problem. This looks like a car park designed by a man who's never pushed a trolley full of shopping and wrangled 3 kids through a car park. I've done it. I've got 4 children. I've done it for years at a time. But councillors, what we have is a very, very poorly designed car park, in my view. It's not at all well considered. It doesn't consider the needs. Yeah, okay. Doesn't consider the needs of the residents, and it doesn't consider the needs of the shopping. I'll have to pause there, Mr Mayor, because I believe I'm out of time.
You are out of time. Good guess.
So,
Anyone
I have a little bit more to say if I could.
an extension?
have an extension, request for an extension of time? Thank you.
Those four.
Those four.
On the floor.
So, what we're seeing, councillors, we're seeing a doubling of car parking in this location over multiple levels. And all of that car parking, if you want to exit that car park and get out to head either along Blackburn Road towards heading south, or heading along Reynolds Road heading west towards the city, effectively your only choice is to exit that car park through the Blackburn Road exit. And to achieve that, we've got a ramp from the upper level, we've got ramps elsewhere from the lower level, and then we've got the middle level. It all comes together down the northern end of the car park. 10 metres from the exit, all the ramps and all the roads come together, and all 800 and whatever vehicles are going to have to come out through that exit, and it drops it onto the internal roadway. Do you know what improvements have been made to that internal roadway to improve the circulation? Do you know how many width changes? Count them, councillors. None. The road is the same width it is now, the sight lines are the same. Actually, it's been changed for the worse, because the existing exit which is there has been moved closer to a couple of other exits. So there is more contention within the internal roadway. Councillors, you would think that a developer, now the developer's name is the Stockland The Pines Retirement Village Proprietary Limited, might have had a talk to the other owner of the site, which just happens to be Stockland, who own, I think it's $7 billion worth of shopping centres around the country. You would have thought that the two owners of this site might come together and think about how do we make these roadways, how do we make these car parks work for the benefit of both the future residents and the shoppers at our shopping centre. And come up with a road design and come up with a car park design that's actually going to work. And unfortunately, it simply hasn't happened, councillors. This is just a simple example of many flaws in this particular proposal, which don't suit the local community, they don't suit the local residents, and it doesn't suit the shoppers. And I would encourage you, councillors, to support the proposition that's before you and refuse it. And hopefully we'll be able to bulldoze further through this when it comes to VCAT.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Zavralis. So long I forgot this.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I think Councillor McLeish, with the extended time, he covered all the opposition that I have against this project. In fact, this application exemplifies what a bad project and a bad application is all about. In fact, it is this sort of project that, if it was approved, it would exacerbate the opposition and the antipathy some residents feel about the overdevelopment in our municipality. I think most of the issues about the lack of cohesive development with the shopping centre, the lack of car parking, and a number of other things. I mean, we've seen projects going 10%, 5% above what is required. This one doubles the recommended height of this structure scheme. Amazing. And how could anyone really think they can get away with such an excess that we would never accept? The other thing is, in terms of the retail car parking spaces, the proposal has 465, when the current spaces of the retail are 515. So we're going to have a physical loss of 50 car parking spaces, and that does not take into account the extra demand that the new retail will require. So we're going to be out by hundreds of car parking spaces. The other thing is that I understand that this project did go to the Sustainable Design Task Force. There were some recommendations made about improvements. Unfortunately, very little has changed by this plan. So I don't think I need to add anything else. This project does not deserve to be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. Are there any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Sorry,
It's
Councillor
nothing
Chen.
about against, I just wanted to say something if I can, Mr. Mayor, about the project.
I'll allow this.
Have you put the rules?
Oh, not against, yes.
They put the rules that anyone can speak.
If there's a debate,
It's
but
not a
if-
debate.
I'll allow it.
Mr Mayor, if I ask a question now.
Yep.
Did we change the rules to say that we could actually speak on a,
Yes, we do, Dan.
has the time for that to be instituted come up? So, if that's the case.
Sorry, you'll clarify. Yeah, I'll agree to let.
Okay, because it's in our rules to touch upon. Yes?
Thank you, Councillor Sun. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't want to touch on anything about the design or car parking or whatever. I just want to touch the central issue about this application. Because we have the price structure plan, and that was reviewed after the Melbourne 2030. And it has gone through the public exhibition, consultation, and approved by council. And I remember that when I look at the plan, there are 6 precincts, and each precinct have identified objectives and what is good for each precinct. And for accommodations and apartment housing, there will be precinct 3 and precinct 6 identified for apartment housing or any alternative housing such as the retirement village and hostels, student housing. But this particular site is in precinct 1 that currently has the Pine Shopping Centre and car parking. And the Pine Shopping Centre to me, is a very stylish and safe shopping centre. I personally would love to live in there if there is a retirement village. But the thing is, we already have the Pine structure plan, and they have made very clear about precinct 1 is identified as the preferred office and retail mix with a preferred maximum building height of 14 meters. And I think that on balance, when I look at that, and I also heard about submitters from both sides about this issue. And of course, the applicants say that they provide housing choices, and the objectors say that they against because of all sorts of issue, traffic, car parking. But because we already have the structure plan, so on balance, we have to accept the officer's recommendation to reduce the application. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that motion. Those 4. And carried. Item 1, City Manningham Planning Scheme Amendment C122, consideration of submissions and request for a panel hearing. Thank you. Councillor Goff.
In line with the ordinary proper process for seeking amendments to our planning scheme, this motion proposes that Council request the Minister of Planning to appoint an independent panel to consider all submissions received to the proposed amendment, of which there have been 5 submissions received. The amendment was placed on public exhibition for a month in February and March. And it seeks a number of things, including the removal of 10 properties from the public acquisition overlay as they've already been acquired, the rezoning of 13 properties or their overlays in order to be consistent with the planning scheme, and it also seeks to remove the heritage overlay over these council offices, following a review by Heritage Consultants, Lovell Chen. Mr Mayor, I move the motion that this amendment follows ordinary and proper processes and that we seek that the Minister appoint an independent panel.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Grant.
In the interest of the function upstairs.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for? And carried. Item 10.2, Municipal Fire Management Plan. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleiner.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Kleiner. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLeish. Councillor Kleiner.
Just very simple, Mr Mayor. This is just a 2-year extension to the 31st of December. As required by legislation, we have a municipal fire management plan. Those that sit on the committee are including Manningham City Council, Metropolitan Fire Brigade, Country Fire Authority, Parks Victoria and DELP. We live, Manningham sits as part of its suburbs in one of the most dangerous fire-prone places in the world to live. So this is an extremely important document. It's just seeking an extension until the state government prepares its releases of new planning guidelines. So I think it's only fair that we pass it until we need it to look again. We hold this as a very important document in our city, and I'm proud to say that we have a very good officers, very good team that work together very well with all those services to keep our fire surface management in tow.
Thank you, Councillor Kleiner. Councillor McLeish. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for? And carried. Thank you. Item 11, Assets and Engineering. 11.1, Road Management Plan and Infrastructure Condition Order, February 2018. Have a mover. Councillor Chen.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Dodd. Councillor Chen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council's compliance with road management plan has been conducted annually since 2002. And it's important to note that these audits has been conducted independently. And the audit assesses activities such as road conditions and maintenance inspections, repair and maintenance, and also related administrative requirements. Council has been taking a proactive approach to minimize the need of community reporting and to enhance customer satisfaction. The result is obvious. So we can see the request received for 2017 has been down by 26% compared to previous year. And the independent consultant has assessed Council's performance as satisfactory. Of course, there are always ways to improve, and the audit has provided us recommendations for that purpose. And I ask my fellow councillors support to the recommendation listed in the agenda. But on a side note, and last Friday I received a compliment from a local resident, and the resident was very happy about the efficiency of our council staff to act on her report of pedestrian hazards. And I have to say, well done, SS and the engineering team, and thank you for the good work. And that compliments really make me very, very happy and make my day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Dodd.
I can't reserve my place, can I? No. I'll lend the interest of that, but I think the report is a good report. It shows that we're monitoring the condition of our roads. And I'm preempting something that people are going to be talking about unmade roads in a minute. So, but the main roads are certainly the work that needs to be done there, and keep monitoring that. I know that the choice of places, and sometimes I look at results, but we need to keep up with the road surfaces, and indeed it's not the point to do it, but there are a number of surfaces of roads that we need to actually look at, and we're also reporting that to Vic Roads as well, because a lot of the areas that there are potholes and that are in the Vic Roads area as well. But congratulations to people working here and working on. We've identified areas that we need to improve with in the areas that we have. I think there's one area of roadside plantings and things like that that we have to do some improvements in. So I think it's good to keep abreast of what's happening here and to go and check our situations all the time.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for? Those against? Yeah, that's all passed, carried. Item 12, community programs. There are no reports. Item 13, shared services. 13.1, 2018-19 annual budget, adoption in principle. Do I have a mover? Councillor Piccinini.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Climate. Thank you. Councillor Piccinini.
Mr Mayor, the council officers adopted a rigorous consultation process with councillors in the preparation of the 18-19 budget for adoption in principle. And initially, I would like to thank them for the rigour, integrity and respect that they brought to the process, which is in line with our council values as working as a team. It's fair to say that councillors were given every opportunity to ask questions, request information and data, and we were provided with the same. So it was an excellent process, and I commend the officers. As a council, our financial planning is based on 7 guiding principles, and these 7 guiding principles were adopted and endorsed by the councillors, and they're really important, so I want to read them out. They are, we were going to deliver an annual budget surplus. Secondly, we are improving council's long-term financial sustainability, which is very important in the era of rate capping. Thirdly, 33% of rate revenue will go to our capital works program. Fourthly, a priority will be given to funding asset renewal before funding new assets. So we're going to maintain our assets in a high-functioning, good way before we build new assets that we need to maintain. Fifthly, there's a major focus placed on improving operational efficiency, implementing new revenue sources and a commitment to maintaining costs. Sixth is the average rate increases are in line with the rate cap, which is 2.25%. And lastly, our principle is that we will deliver infrastructure projects that meet community needs. So we're listening to the community and their needs in relation to this budget. So adhering to these principles, there are several highlights that I'd like to point out. Firstly, the forecast saving based on efficiencies for this financial year is 2.1 million. We've done really well. We've saved 2.1 million in efficiencies. And last financial year, we saved 1.7. And there's a continued focus on efficiencies and developing new revenue sources in this budget. Secondly, we have heard the community and their desire to improve footpaths and drainage. We have the flooding overlay matter this financial year, and we have heard the community loud and strong about the need to improve our drainage. And we continue to hear the community's need and desire to improve ordinary footpaths, not just the linear, Ruffy Cliff linear park, but just ordinary footpaths in front of people's streets. So, an additional $1.5 million is allocated in the 18-19 budget towards ordinary footpaths in front of people's streets, and an additional $1.5 million is in the budget to improve drainage. This forms part of an additional $10.5 million to improve footpaths and drainage over the next 4 years. So we're listening to our community. And lastly, there are 3 infrastructure projects that we've brought forward that will be completed in this term. And they are Now, initially, they were going to be completed in next term, but we brought them forward because we know they're really important and the community is wanting these projects completed as soon as possible. Firstly, it's the female-friendly sports facility upgrades. Essentially, girls and boys' toilets on footy grounds, cricket grounds, and soccer ovals. So girls don't have to use the boys' toilets when they play sport. Secondly, Petty's Reserve Pavilion will be completed in this term. So the soccer clubs that are crying out for facilities will be able to use Petty's Reserve by the end of this term to run their training sessions and games. Currently, it's not possible to such an extent because there's no pavilion and there's inadequate facilities. And thirdly, we're going to complete the Ruffy Creek Linear Park in this council term. So it's an excellent budget. We've made the changes that we've needed to make, and we've been very considered and prudent in making these additional spending. So I commend the budget to council, and I seek that it be advertised. Thank you, Councillor Jeff, and that I encourage the public the public to participate in put in submissions to be heard by the annual budget committee before the council meeting in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Councillor Connor. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the other interesting facets in this budget is of course, what's going on with waste charges. Now, remembering, councillors, we're talking about our draft budget here. It's not our final budget. It has to go through the rest of the process. But in our draft budget, we have, of course, had to deal with what's happening with the recycling charges. It's hitting councils all over the country, it's hitting councils all over the state, and it's hitting councils all over Melbourne, and we are not immune to this. The change for us is modest compared to some other councils, but it is not cheap. We were getting $720,000 per annum rebate on our recycling. That's turned around and gone the opposite direction, and now we will be paying $720,000 a year. So that's a $1.44 million turnaround in terms of waste costs to our ratepayers. And that has to be reflected in the waste charge on everybody's rate notice. Therefore, what we're going to see is an increase to the average ratepayer. Let me see if I can make sure I get this right, because it's the last thing I want to do to get wrong. Perhaps I can do it more simply. What's the increase, if I may ask a question of the officer?
$42.30 on the standard.
$42.30 on the standard waste bin. And that's a sizable increase, councillors. It's a difficult increase, but it's something we simply have to do. But I put it in context. 2 years ago, we did a major recontracting of our waste services. And in doing that, we saved over $1.5 million. And in doing that, we cut the waste charge in this city by $65 for the standard charge. So 2 years back, when things were good, when the officers did a great job recontracting the service, bringing down our costs, we cut the waste charge by $65. This year what we've got is an increase in costs, and again we're passing it straight back to the community, this time unfortunately in terms of an increase. But it's a modest increase thanks to the good work of the officers in keeping a lid on our costs overall, and doing a good job in outsourcing these arrangements very cost effectively, and I commend them for their effort on behalf of our community in delivering what is a modest change. We are still cheaper than we were 6 years ago. 6 years ago. We're still cheaper than it was to waste 6 years ago. That's because of the good work of the organisation keeping a lid on costs, and I thank them for that.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. I will put that motion then. Those for? And carried. Thank you. Item 14, Chief Executive Officer, 14.1, MAB advocacy motions, May State Council meeting 2018. Do I have a mover? Councillor Zafiropoulos.
I move that the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor, sorry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galbraith. Thank you. Councillor Zafiropoulos.
Manningham is a member of the Municipal Association of Victoria, which is the big body for local government. Each year, the MAV has a state council at which it gives the opportunity to local government councils to submit advocacy motions in relation to the important issues that have an impact on the community. We're also a member of the Eastern Affordable Housing Alliance, 4 or 5 councils together, and one of those members, the City of Knox, has put an advocacy motion which basically proposes to increase the number of social and affordable housing in the eastern region, which, by the way, falls well behind the average metropolitan, the average in the metropolitan area. So basically, this motion is all about endorsing the motion of the City of Knox. So I commend the motion and seek your support.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. Councillor Galbraith.
Yes, I'd like to add something here. I think affordable housing is something very important for not only councils, but state and federal to be listening to, as I think we've said here at this table before. It's affordable housing isn't something that one council can achieve on its own, not even in a representative other local councils. It really does need the action of the state government to step up and work very closely with councils everywhere. The housing affordability gap is widening between the haves and the have-nots at an increasing rate. There are gone are the days where 2 working couples can afford to buy a house, and that gap is and difficulty is getting harder for them. So let alone someone with one member of a family working or being a low-income earner, they're in the real hard achievement role. So I hope the state government listen to MAV when more councils step up, and Mike is our representative there, and let him have it. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Councillor Galbraith. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for? Carried. Item 14.2, record of assembly of councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleiner. Councillor Chen. Councillor Kleiner. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. That is for. Thank you. Carried. Item 14.3, documents for sealing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kitchen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Councillor Piccinini.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Haynes. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for. Thank you. Carried. Item 15.1, notice of motion by Councillor Galbraith.
Yes, thank you. I would like to read out my notice of motion, please. I read that the Council advocate to the State Government via the Minister for Gaming and the Victoria Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation for an amendment to the Victorian Gaming Industry Responsible Gaming Code of Conduct that requires that venues be prohibited from A. collecting customer profiling data on customers other than self-declared problem gamblers, B. storing and sharing customer profiling data with other gaming venues. C, gifting customers with drink cards as part of customer loyalty schemes. And D, setting staff targets with the aim to increase venues' gains by encouraging customers' losses.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Klein? Councillor Gallagher?
Yeah, just a little note. It's through Manningham's gambling policy and healthy city strategy, the council is committed to working towards reducing harm of problem gambling. The Gambling Regulation Act of 2003 requires that gambling venues operate under an approved responsible gambling code of conduct, as per ministerial direction standards and requirements of such codes of conduct. No details are provided in the ministerial direction that specifies what customer information can be collected, stored or shared. So no details are provided with the ministerial direction that specifies what can or cannot be offered as a reward within a customer loyalty scheme. Therefore, this motion seeks that Council advocate to the Minister of Gaming and the VCGLR for a number of amendments to the VCGLR Code of Conduct as per the motion tabled. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Klein? Any speakers against? I'll put that motion there. Those in favour? And carried. Item 16, urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Item 17, councillor question time. Are there any questions from councillors? Moving on. Item 18, confidential reports. Tender for the contract for the management and operation of Victorina Aquatic and Leisure Centre. Go ahead and move over to close the meeting. Councillor Klein?
That council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 89.